You're watching The Shift, and I'm Frida Liu. Now, according to the World Health Organization, e-waste is the fastest growing solid waste stream in the world. In 2019, an estimated 53.6 million tons of e-waste were produced globally, but only 17.4% was documented as formally collected and recycled. I like that, formally. So 75% of the e-waste in Malaysia ends up in landfills. Now, lead is one of the common substances released into the environment. If e-waste is recycled, stored, or dumped using inferior activities such as open burning. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, but e-waste recycling activities may have several adverse impacts on human health. Children and pregnant women are particularly vulnerable. ILO and WHO estimate that millions of women and child laborers working in the formal recycling sector around the world may be at risk of e-waste exposure, and hopefully that's not the case with child labor here in Malaysia. Today I'm here with Mohamed Tarek Al-Fatetry. We'll call him Mo, or we'll call him Tarek, of Blue Bee Technologies, talking about Project ERTH, which aims to ease the earth of e-waste. So congrats on winning the Maxis Awards winner in 2022. I know that's 2 years ago. So I was watching your video, and you said the average person uses 200 devices in their lifetime, which is equivalent to 1 ton of e-waste. I was thinking, OMG, okay, right? I'm the contributor. Can you tell me what happens when e-waste lands in landfills and ultimately how this ultimately affects us? I think people don't fully grasp that concept.
First of all, it's a great pleasure to be here. I love the show. I think I watched all the episodes, and I love that many of our existing partners have actually been on the show, and many of the things I think I'm going to say today are kind of connected to what they have said as well. E-waste is one of the most serious problems that our world is facing. We are increasingly using more and more technology. Nowadays, even with EVs, electric scooters, IoT, 5G, robotics, AI, there is definitely an accelerating pace with which we utilize electronics. And according to our estimate, we use around 200 electronic devices during our lifetime, which is roughly around 1 ton of e-waste. So just imagine that when someone, let's say that they have lived for 100 years, even the average lifespan is less than that, but let's say they live for 100 years, actually whatever they have left behind in Earth as e-waste can stay for like centuries after they're gone.
Right.
And I think we all watched like the movie WALL-E. Is this really the future that we want, where the planet, becomes just full of garbage and we have to go to space in order to survive? So I think e-waste is kind of like the silent killer, because if you look at the solid waste pie, you will see that e-waste is only like 3% of solid waste.
Right.
So someone could say, get your priorities straight. What about plastic? What about food waste? Yes, they are serious problems. But what if I told you that this 3% contributes 70% of the toxic heavy metals contamination in our environment? So when we have water disruption, because they detected an unsafe level of toxic heavy metals in the water, this is something that sometimes affects us, in our daily lives, but people do not necessarily connect that to e-waste or to toxic heavy metals.
Right.
So that is something that we all need to recognize. There is good news here. The global recycling rate, as you said, is 17.4%. Here in Malaysia, according to the Jabatan Alam Sekitar, is 30%.
Okay.
So we are doing well, but if you come to think that 365,000 tons, what we produce annually, still 70% of that
is
not properly recycled. Okay, you have to ask, okay, where does that stuff go, right? It is generated for sure, but it's not formally recycled. So where does it go? Two places. Either it goes to landfill, it's mixed with other types of waste, so in the end it becomes non-recyclable, and then we have to just tip it in the landfill. Or it goes to illegal collection and processing activities.
Right.
And that is even like worse. So actually both of these are environmentally disastrous for different ways. Let's start with the landfill, because still putting e-waste in the landfill is bad for the environment, but it's not illegal. I mean, actually, it does happen everywhere in the world. But why is it a bad thing? It's a bad thing because I think we might have come across this research that was done that said that due to rising sea levels, in a decade or two, there is a chance that KLIA will be actually on the beach. So the water is actually going to eat up, a bit of land.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what if I told you that some of the landfills that we use very heavily, especially here near the Klang Valley area, are actually going to be submerged with water.
Right.
So it means that what we thought was a safe space where we can just dump all of that, mix of our waste safely forever, it's not designed to be submerged with water. When the water comes, it will bind with the toxic particles inside that waste, and then after that, it will cause serious damage to the water supply, the soil, etc. So we can't continue to use landfills, and I think a lot of countries are recognizing that. That's why some countries they just said, okay, the solution is incineration. Some countries say we need to have very aggressive targets for recycling. That's why in China we have this e-waste sorting app where you can just point it at any type of waste. It will detect what it is and tell you which bin to put it.
Okay.
We have in Japan, they sell you these separate plastic bags where you have to put different types of stuff, and if you put the wrong thing inside and then you put it in the bin, you get fined. So we have different systems that are trying to force the segregation at source, because that is the best way. I think a lot of contamination happens when, even if you have the blue bins, like for example Singapore, you want to put all the recyclables inside, there will be inevitably some contamination. So it is not the ideal way. The ideal way is separation at source. Okay, let's talk about the worst one, which is not landfills. Landfills is bad, but let's talk about the one that is even worse: illegal processing of e-waste. So here in Malaysia, there is 120 authorized collectors by the Jabatan Alam Sekitar, 60 licensed recovery facilities. Now, all of these are the good guys. So these 180 companies, they have followed all the procedures. They have acquired all the licenses. They get audited by the Jabatan Alam Sekitar regularly. But they still, all of these guys, after investing millions into their operations, are only getting 30% of Malaysia e-waste.
Right.
So that's actually kind of sad, because many of them are struggling. Many of them, are either break even or losing.
Right.
So they go to the Jabatan Alam Sekitar and say, hey, we need subsidy scheme. We can't survive. We need to import e-waste from outside so to get the feedstock. Okay, so why aren't they able to get the feedstock? And we know it's there, but it's not reaching the good guys. It's because the illegal processing activities do not have any compliance cost.
Right.
So they can just
undercut.
Give you an example: 10 kg of wires, cables. What is the procedure at a proper recycling facility? They're going to put it into a machine to strip the plastic casing. Then after that, they're going to detect what is the type of metal inside, all the copper together, all the aluminum together, etc., etc. Whereas in the illegal processor, they're going to drizzle some kerosene, light it on fire.
Oh, geez.
Come back next morning, all the plastic has flown away, and then they just have metal fibers that they will go and sell to the Besi Buruk.
Right.
So very, very different process, but just think of the guy who has to do it right. He has to buy the machine. Right. Even that plastic casing that he stripped away, either he has to send it to a recycler of plastic, or if it's non-recyclable, he has to pay the tipping fee to put it in the landfill after he depollutes it, which has its own cost. So he needs to follow the procedure. So this guy needs to account for all of these compliance costs within his markup. So when the price that he buys these wires with, he needs to account for all of these compliance costs in. Whereas the illegal guy doesn't have any compliance cost, so he can simply buy from the consumer at a higher price than the good guy. That's why they're getting the stock.
Wow. But just back to your earlier point of how e-waste only 3%, but contributing 70% to toxicity in the soil and all that, right? I guess compared to food waste and things like that, although they may contribute, but it's not environmentally hazardous in that sense, right? Now, are people in Malaysia, though, are specifically aware of how to dispose of e-waste? Are Malaysians doing it, or is it organizations coming to you?
I've seen a significant difference between 2019 when we started and 2024.
Okay.
The public are becoming more aware because, I mean, just think about it. In 2019, we had 5 authorized collectors. Now we have 120. So that's
Okay.
like, wow, it's a huge growth in terms of the collectors. Each of those collectors are doing their own awareness building. They're doing, with the condos, the tamans, and all the clubs and NGOs and so on are spreading the word, and the awareness is increasing. However, maybe the general public, when they are confronted with the choice of give it to the good guy and get less money, or give it to just whoever and get more money, that is the part where maybe the awareness still needs to catch up, or regulation. Because also, if there is regulation that says that there is a risk of getting fined if your e-waste ends up being illegally processed, then maybe that will be a deterrent, and everyone will seek the licensed and authorized players to give them their e-waste. But that is not the only problem. The problem also with illegal processor is that, for example, your personal data. How do they process it? Do they access your data before like in our company, it is absolutely impossible. When we get your device, regardless of whether you paid for the service or not, I mean, if you pay for the data wiping service, you're gonna get a legal certificate with your device's serial number that proves through a third-party independent company that your device has been wiped. This is a paid service, but what do we do with the devices that their owner hasn't paid the fee? We still wipe them.
Okay.
We just don't give you the certificate. So we wipe everything because we just can't. We can't afford to. This is a very, very serious thing. We can't afford any data leakage. We want people to trust us, and we haven't had incidents. So we would like the general public to keep in mind that it is not just about getting a few extra ringgit. There is a very, very big iceberg. Like, there is an iceberg. It's a very, like most of it is actually below what you can see. You are just looking at the tip, few extra ringgit. But everything under is something that you need to think about as well.
Right, because you just brought up a very interesting point, because I don't contribute to e-waste in terms of my smartphones because they're all still at home.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
They're all still at home.
Because you're worried about the
data.
I know, yeah.
Okay. So what do I do right now when I want, working with the likes of you, when I want to dispose of my electronic devices, and what do you actually collect apart from phones? What else do you collect?
So ERTH stands for Electronic Recycling Through Heroes. Heroes are a network of freelancers that have signed up with us, using their own personal vehicles to help connect the consumer or business that wants to recycle with our warehouse. So let's say you are in Shah Alam, you make the booking, our system will check which heroes are in Shah Alam, logged in right now, their vehicle can fit the stuff that you want to recycle, and then it's going to dispatch the order to them. When the hero accepts it, he will contact you, arrange the time, take the stuff, pay you for them, and then deliver the stuff to our warehouse. So because we rely on freelancers, we need to put very clear parameters as to what we can accept and what we cannot accept. This is for various reasons related to the capacity of the vehicles that are in the network. So for example, most of our heroes drive passenger cars, which can't fit massage chair, treadmill, fridge, washing machine.
Really?
So I tried, but it didn't fit.
The fridge.
Trying to put a fridge in an Axia or a Myvi is kind of a challenge. So we limit the devices that we take to 50 cm. 50 cm is this size, a microwave size, and 25 kg. So anything bigger than that, yes, it is still e-waste. Yes, it should still be recycled, but it gets recycled so infrequently, once every 10 years, once every 15 years, that we believe consumers will find a way to either pay the fee to some bulk disposal company to take it away, or many of the retailers have a one-to-one recycling program where when you buy the new fridge, they will take your old fridge free of charge.
Right.
So we don't think that there is a very serious problem in that side, because we also talked to the biggest retailers in the country, and they said that this one-to-one program is going very, very well. And
Right.
it's not an industry that needs disruption. Everyone knows that when I buy the new fridge, I can get them to
Yes.
take my old one away. So that one doesn't need like ERTH to come and contribute. But the challenge is, let's say they come and deliver your new fridge, take your old fridge, and then you say, hey, by the way, I have 10 phones and 2 printers and 1 laptop. Can you take? They will say, sorry, cannot, because we are a one-to-one recycling program. So
that's when you fit that 25 kilos to you.
Yes.
All the other bits, right? Okay, so you work with your heroes, right? And they're called. Is it easy finding these people?
Actually, we rarely go out and put a job posting or, hey, looking for heroes or something. It's all inbound.
Okay.
All our heroes that are active today, they have found out about us. Either sometimes a customer would send the stuff with, for example,
Right.
Lalamove or something
Right.
like that, and then the driver would say, oh, what is this place? And then when we explain, he's like, hey, can I sign up? Because our heroes per kilometer earn 50% more than driving for Grab.
Oh,
We understand that there is a little bit of light exercise. They have
Yeah.
to load and unload. Sometimes they have to climb stairs, etc. So we have created our fee formula to make this an M40 income opportunity if you do it full time.
right.
So that is a very important for us, because we also did some studies with MITE and the Malaysian government, and we found out that 90% of gig workers work full-time hours,
Okay.
but 2/3 of them earn B40 income.
Right.
So we didn't want, to compromise on that, because heroes is in our name. Like, heroes
Yeah.
are really literally the DNA of our company.
Right.
That is why we're able to have the largest fleet of drivers. That's why we have the largest coverage of any, I'm not saying e-waste, I'm saying any reverse logistics company in Malaysia. We have the largest. Because of our network of our heroes.
Right.
Plus, we recently announced a strategic partnership with Post Malaysia. So now, more than 1,000 post offices in Malaysia are drop-off points for our e-waste.
Wow. So so you are nationwide.
Yes, nowadays.
You are nationwide.
Yeah, it's just from 2024, so it's a very recent thing.
Hot news. You heard it here. How many tons have you collected since starting Project Earth?
When we started this, BN Nahed, my co-founder, who also happens to be my wife, in 2019, when we bought our first 100 kg of e-waste, if you would have said that, guys, 5 years later, you're going to be talking about 1.5 million kgs of e-waste,
Okay.
I definitely wouldn't have believed you, because it just would have seemed like a 1.5 million kg is like
It's a lot.
It's like 25 aircraft.
Right.
It's like a big amount. But of course, it wasn't like us literally carrying
yes.
it. It was our
Yes.
heroes, bite-sized
Yes.
jobs that are just done thousands of times at different locations. But basically 1.5 million kg, which is 1,500 tons. We exceeded that already.
It's very encouraging, though.
Yeah.
Very, that Malaysians are moving in that direction. right?
But in my mind, 365,000, the annual
Yes.
e-waste produced, and 1,500 is still seems like an ant and an elephant.
Right.
It still seems like, oh my God, there is so much still to do, and we are trying to do it as much as we can. But definitely, I mean, we got the certificate from the Jabatan Alam Sekretariat that we are the top collector, starting from 2021.
Right.
So we believe that no one even comes close to us, but there is still a long way to go.
Is your focus more B2B or B2C?
So if you come to think of our concept, we've changed the paradigm of disposing. For example, in 2020, we got a recycling request from NTT. It's a data center company in Cyberjaya, which is apparently the 64th largest company in the world. At that time, our focus was squarely on B2C. We were just like, hey, you know what? Household, no one's doing that. Let us do it. All the B2B, I'm sure there is hundreds of vendors that are happy to do the service. But when we got the request from NTT, and the disposal amount was not huge, I mean, it's just like one lorry, but for a large data center, it's not much. We asked them, why did you request us? So they were like, okay, first of all, we are able to dispose in smaller batches with you. So you guys are used to the houses, which are only contributing few devices.
Yeah.
So if we call you with like half a lorry or 1/4 of a lorry, you're not gonna reject it. So you can come for smaller batches more frequently,
Right.
etc. So we started to notice that big companies were using the household booking line to dispose their stuff in smaller batches.
Right.
So we created a B2B department. So nowadays, by volume, we get half, around 50-50 from homes and businesses. But of course, by number of transactions, the lion's share is B2C because to get the 50%, you need so many more transactions to get the same amount. We can go to a B2B and get like 1,000 devices. If we try to do that, we need to go to 200 homes. So there's like 200 to 1 ratio. So by volume, it's 50-50, but by transactions, of course, the B2C is higher.
Listening to your story and how far you've come in the last 5 years, and obviously something you're very passionate about. Of course, I've been hearing your story for the longest time. How would you, and then coming from Finland, right, where you've seen things move so advanced and all that. So final question, how would you like to see a circular economy around e-waste happening in Malaysia? And I know like different countries have different formulas. What do you think will work, having been here for the last couple of years?
So in hindsight, I feel that we were so lucky to actually start this in Malaysia, because Malaysia already has all of the infrastructure in place, like 60 licensed recovery facilities that we can send our stuff to. So we're never going to run out of someone to go. Like if you go to some of the neighboring countries, they have like 2 or 3 licenses, and their geography is like so huge.
Right.
So if we want to go nationwide there, we would have to have like a huge logistic cost to send it, or we would then have to start to think, okay, let's put it in shipping containers and send it somewhere. Like literally, I have like some calls from like collectors in Hawaii, for example, because it is not connected to mainland in the US. So sometimes it's cheaper for them to put it on a container to Asia than to put it on a container to the US.
Wow.
So Malaysia has all the infrastructure, 60 recovery facilities. It has a population that is fairly large. The amount of e-waste produced 365,000 tons, which is estimated value at around $2 billion USD per year. So it's a great, and also Bursa requires the public listed companies to show some sustainability metrics and do reporting and so on. So now, in the past, it's the multinationals, the DHLs of the world, because they had like top-down policies from HQ in Germany, were trying to drive the sustainability agenda here. But 2023, that changed.
Right.
Now we have the Malaysian HQ, the Malaysian publicly listed companies are actually driving it because they have the sustainability reporting requirements and so on. And that's why we landed the partnership with Maxis, which is very successful. In fact, our partnership with Maxis, we won an international award at the Telco World Conference. Then we also have a partnership with Post, and we have so many of our other customers as well who are Malaysian companies. So I think Malaysia will play a significant role in Southeast Asia in showing what is the model that can really drive a major breakthrough in the recycling rate, such as having a convenient collection from doorstep or via post, for example, National Postal Service. Then the consumer gets rewarded. So it's not like in Europe where you take the stuff to the retailer, but you don't get any reward for it. So here you do get rewarded. Then you also have the 3 grades. So we have grade A reusable that gets sold to the B40 community who need working devices.
Right.
You have the grade B, the repairable stuff, gets harvested for spare parts and taken to the hundreds of refurbish and repair companies that are already functioning in the country. Or grade C, recyclable, it will go to one of the 60 recovery facilities. So now we have a full circular economy ecosystem that is driven by a single transaction that you as a consumer just decided that I want to recycle my stuff, and now you have this army of vendors and contractors and service providers who are just gonna do all the magic to ensure that your phone from 2 years ago doesn't need to continue sitting in your drawer, but rather it can be wiped, refurbished, given to someone, and another life and another life and another life until eventually it goes to the licensed recovery facility.
And to do it the right and legal process, right? Thanks, Mo. It's been so educational. I've learned so much. And of course, do check them out. Do call the heroes as well. And I've been speaking to Mo from ERTH, and you've been watching The Shift Asia.
Thank you very much.